Now, let me introduce to you our first session with Precisely and speakers Trey Wood and Paul Rasmussen. Trey is a solutions architect at Precisely, where he helps enterprises unlock the value of trusted data through comprehensive multi-product solutioning and storytelling. With a degree in management information systems, he began his career in consulting, implementing master data automation workflows for core business processes and supporting the development and maturation of enterprise data governance programs. Drawn to the creative side of solutioning, Trey shifted into a pre-sales to blend technical depth with narrative clarity. He now brings a consultative outcomes first approach to every engagement, focusing on finding the right hammers for the right nails rather than fitting every challenge to a single tool. Paul Rasmussen is a principal product manager whose career has grown in step with the information age, helping organizations transform raw data into the trusted foundation that powers modern AI and enterprise innovation. He operates at the intersection of data management, artificial intelligence, and product strategy, building the tools that give businesses the reliable data infrastructure their analytics and AI systems depend on. Paul has a proven track record of taking early stage AI concepts in the data management space and turning them into commercially successful analyst recognized products. Before joining Precisely, he built a technology consulting firm from the ground up, growing it through acquisition by Dell Technologies, where he led some of the most consequential data at scale initiatives in the industry. Now I will pass it over to Paul and Trey. Hello and welcome, my friends.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'll start with something obvious. We all know data has gained importance, has become one of your organization's most valuable assets. In many cases, it has become just as valuable as your physical assets such as raw materials, inventory, real estate, and machinery. But unlike your physical assets, data changes drastically, often a million times a day. It's an uphill battle staying ahead and maintaining your data integrity. And if you're attending this session, you are more than aware of AI's impact on your business. I know for myself, AI is now just part of my life. What started off as a fun hobby is now critical to my work life. For you, it may be AI is requiring a rethink of your data quality and its impact. You're being asked to do more with AI, both personally and in driving your business. And lastly, being reminded that the data quality and context leads to good decision making. And it's not just you making these decisions, it's now AI agents making these decisions based on your data. Bottom line, context and quality have become one of the most common data integrity priorities. Talk about Precisely, a little bit about Precisely. We have decades of experience and expertise across the key pillars of AI and data management. With over 12,000 customers worldwide, spanning 95 of the Fortune 100 companies and over 2,600 employees, we've been powering businesses like yours for quite some time. Odds are you have used one of our products or consumed a service that was enabled by us. And with a unique combination of software, data, and data strategy consulting services, we work with clients through their data integrity journeys. Okay, at this point, you're probably asking, how does Precisely power data integrity for agentic AI? We do it through several ways. First, our data management capabilities in our data integrity suite that's designed to work with your existing tech stack. By providing a purpose-built UI for curated user experiences, open APIs, all guided by Geo, the Data Integrity Suite's AI assistant. A growing set of specialized AI agents, and a foundation layer that connects and accelerates all the services through shared metadata, making all this possible. All while securely providing access to data, processing the data, cataloging, and understanding it, while using AI to improve and automate the processes. And it does it by running where your data lives, being on premises, in the cloud, or hybrid of both, allowing us to deliver consistently across your entire ecosystem. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Trey to show you a demo.
Yep. Thank you very much, Paul. So today I'll be walking through the Data Integrity Suite and focusing on four main areas of data discovery, traceability, readiness, and trust, all enabled through our data catalog, right? And this is going to help enable consumers to find data that's fit for purpose, compliant, and ready for your use cases. Under all of it is what I call a trust layer, what precisely we're calling our trust layer, where business meaning, quality, metrics, governance policies, and lineage are connected on a single catalog foundation. And that foundation is accessible not just to people navigating the UI, but to AI agents programmatically as well. So before I kind of start walking through the platform, I do want to start with this punchline where every organization investing in AI eventually hits this same question. Can we actually use this data for the use case, right? It's not, does it exist at this point in time, but it's more around, is it governed? Is it quality checked? Does it meet our policies? And is it cleared for specific use cases? So I'm actually going to start and talk a little bit about what it looks like when an AI agent can answer that question on its own, utilizing our data catalog framework here. So I'll transition into Claude here. So the scenario I'm posing here is I have an AI agent connected to Precisely's data integrity suite trust layer through our MCP server or model context protocol. And this is giving the agent direct programmatic access to the data catalog, be it the metadata, governance policies, quality scores, all of it. So I asked a real question here that based on policies related to the customer revenue forecasting AI use case, can the related data sets be used by the agent? And then just to kind of give a summary of recommended data steward actions needed to allow the agent to use the related data. We could see that it's communicating, the LLM's communicating with the MCP server here, executing a few actions, searching the catalog for the use case, discovering related data sets, pulling quality and governance scoring for each data set, and evaluating those scores against policy thresholds, right? I didn't tell it where to look for all of these. It's navigating that right on its own here. So I'll come down to the summary here and we'll take a look here at the results. So this came back saying that it's actually the underlying data is not ready for autonomous agent use. It's pulling out two governance policies that were stitched together in the catalog for AI supported decision making, where there's minimum dataset quality score and governance scoring, as well as human in the loops required. And we can also see that three data sets were found to be linked, a transactions table, a customer master table, and a fact table. And we see that the customer master table is actually blocking this agent from utilizing the underlying data. And last but not least here, we can see that the agent's also delivering specific steward actions, such as fixing specific quality rules, compliance governance certification, or completing governance certification, documenting PII justification, and establishing human in the loop review. So if we think about it, that's an AI agent making an autonomous governance decision, not necessarily guessing or hallucinating without a trust layer. That's something that can definitely happen and has happened in large enterprises up to this point. So it's using the actual metadata policies and scores from the catalog. So the question I'm posing for the rest of the session is, how do you build the trust layer that makes this interaction possible, right? So that's what the data integrity suite does. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you that now. So transitioning into the data integrity suite here, right? I want to frame what I mean by the trust layer, right? We saw basically an output of how the trust layer can be used, but making a data set discoverable is table stakes at this point, right? Any of your cataloging tools can index tables, for example. The question is, when someone finds the data, can they immediately understand what it means in business terms, who's accountable for it, whether it's sensitive, how good it is, and whether it's been certified for use? So that's what's really turning a catalog from an inventory into a governance platform and enabling that governance. It's what enables the agent we just saw to make those decisions programmatically. And while the data integrity suite catalogs technical assets, it also catalogs business assets as well. So that's business terms, owners, policies, in addition to pipelines, tables, BI reports, for example. And that metadata is continuously harvested through our connector framework. So at first, I want to just kind of walk through, and we'll use, as Paul mentioned, Geo is our internal AI assistant, AI agent, to explore a little bit more into our concept. And first, we want to talk about discovery here. So go ahead and hop into Geo, and let's take a look at one of these chats I had earlier today. So I'm asking what data sets are used by the customer revenue forecasting AI use case. And I'm starting with that same AI use case that we saw, right? That the agent's evaluating. And an AI use case is actually a type of business asset that we'll take a look at in the tool here. But we'll see Geo found the use case, the business asset, and shows me three data sets from Snowflake as well too here. But it also connects business terms, a goal, organizational goal, objectives, data products, metrics, reports, and governance policies. And our meta model is open and flexible. So, if you have organization-specific objects that are business objects, it's ultimately completely configurable in the system, specifically to your organization's needs, right? So this is the relationship model that the agent traversed, where everything is linked, use case to data sets, to terms, to policies, right? And that's what makes the trust layer queryable, right? Through the MCP or through APIs or through the user interface. So what I'm actually going to do is open up, let's take a look at the particular data set that is blocked here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this AI use case. We'll be able to see some of the relationships that are built to technical assets such as reports and data sets. And let's go ahead and open up, we see some quality scoring and governance scoring, and we'll kind of dig into that a little bit here now. So remember the agent told us this data set had that 76% quality score and 50% governance score. Let's take a look at some of the context that we can pull out here within the catalog asset. So we have a definition or a description that can be also generated by AI within the tool here that reads various facets of semantic types of the fields as well as names as well and relationships. We can see also business terms here, right? We have payment terms, for example. If we want to see what a business term relation of the description is, right? Ownership, acronyms, for example, and other relationships we'll see. We also see ownership, for example, right? If I go into this customer domain, we see that in the domain here for this for our table, we have an owner, a data steward, a subject matter expert, and a technical owner, all traversable and made available to any downstream consumers so that they understand who's accountable for your underlying data and business terms as well. We have classifications through our best of breed semantic type evaluation. So for example, here, if I'm looking at like a billing address line, we can detect semantic type, which will allow for further recommendations for data quality and governance recommendations there. And then we also see our scoring at the top here. We'll get into a little bit more details about data quality and data governance scoring when we get to the readiness section. But also we have, if I come back to details, our certification status here. So we can make workflows to certify data sets, business terms, and anything here. So that's really what's causing the data governance score to be low, as we saw, right? So when we get into that remediation type of activity, we'll talk about those. So this here, if we see, right, we have this governance context being built from any point of any asset type in the catalog, right? The catalog tells you what the data means, who owns it, and whether it's trusted, and can help with Geo tell you where the gaps are. And as we saw, agents consume this exact same context through MCP as well. So let's actually dive a little bit deeper now into a related business asset. So I'm going to go into gross profit and actually go ahead and open this up, this business turn up. So the data integrity suite maintains glossaries of business assets and business terms being one type, right? Gross margin, customer lifetime value, all of these various terms that drive the business. And we want to ensure that not only are our internal employees speaking the same language, but that our autonomous agents are also speaking the same language and are on the same page here. We see here the terms have descriptions, right? We have whether contains PII or critical data elements. We also can extend certification status here as well. And we can also see the related data sets down below, related AI use cases, and metrics. So if we think about this, right, we can see calculation logic, link it to technical assets, right? And if we take a look here, right, we see the calculation formulas. We're all speaking the same language. And those formulas can be also documented here in more business context as opposed to straight Python or, the actual metrics and calculation logic underneath. So when someone asks how is gross margin calculated within our AI use case, it's here governed and traceable. right? So this combination of technical and business assets, all interconnected through relationships, is positioned to be the semantic layer of your organization, not just for technical assets, like we just said, but also for how the business speaks about concepts. So for BI, for governance, for compliance, and for AI agents that need to know what a field actually means or a table actually is used for before they try and utilize it as well. So the last portion of discovery that I want to talk about here is around our critical data elements and how Geo can help us not only tag existing assets, but recommend brand new assets. So if I come in and let's take a look at some of the business terms that were recommended here. So I can ask Geo, help me generate critical data elements for the customer domain, and it will go ahead and tag and recommend new. So critical data elements get elevated visibility and stricter governance, right? Our strategic services team likes to, position that 100% of your data assets and data in your organization is not critical, right? It's as you move it up and get up this kind of pyramid type of structure, you'll find that there's only a smaller percentage that is truly being used for decisions, within C-suite reports, and as well as operationally, right? So that's we're going to be able to utilize the context from the catalog to help generate those critical data elements. So we see some technical assets such as table fields, as well as business terms, right, that already exist. We can flag them as critical data elements, but also give you a starting point, right? As we see here, we have new business terms that are being recommended based on the data in the catalog. So this is going to help your governance teams have a starting point and not have to start from scratch. As we know that, I've worked on data governance strategies, engagements in my consulting days, that this is an arduous process here to even begin to know where to start when it comes to building out a business glossary here. So now that we've discovered the data behind this AI use case, identified business context, ownership, and policies, the next question is impact. Where does this data come from? Where does it flow? And what does it influence downstream? So that's where we'll transition into traceability here within the tool. So we'll actually come back to our Geo conversation here. And let's go ahead and ask to basically, down here, show me lineage related to the customer master B2B table. Right, what we can see is that Geo is returning a portion of a data flow. We have an upstream CSV file and an S3 bucket. Downstream, we're feeding a staging table or a staging view in Snowflake. And I can actually select view lineage, and this will open up our full lineage view here. So now I'm looking at the complete flow of where a customer master is cascading to in my organization here. We see that we're sourced in S3, going into Snowflake through staging and fact tables into a sales overview report. We get those quality indicators here at the table level. We also get them at the field level. So if I come down and select, say, payment terms is actually utilized in a downstream report. We see the data quality score as it moves through data flows, as well as we see here, phone number, for example, is not actually being utilized by our table downstream. So I can actually open up as well further downstream, and it will surface more upstream tables here. So this fact table was created from a master table and a transactions table, and we're able to see the combination of measures as well. What fields are used downstream that are affecting some critical measures upstream down here, right? And if lineage is incomplete, we can manually extend it as the platform accounts for this, right? We have a manual editing mode where we can add that downstream field or table lineage, right? As we know, not, 100% of lineage is not possible to be, fully harvested programmatically and systematically. So we, allow for that for that support there. So if we think back to the MCP demo, the agent traced from AI use case through the data sets to scores. And that is because of these relationships, right? So this is just an example of a lineage relationship that the catalog enables. We also have those other relationships like use case to policy to data set to quality rule, all living in that same catalog. So remember, lineage isn't just for tables and pipelines, it's for the entire governance model, right? So lineage tells us how data moves, but movement alone doesn't tell us whether the data is actually fit for purpose. So once we can trace the path from source to report or to model, the next step is actually evaluating readiness. Not necessarily just where the data came from, but whether it's meeting the standards required for my use case, right? So we'll actually go back into my customer master B2B, but before I do that, we're going to go back to Geo as well. So what we're going to ask Geo next is, show me a summary of the quality of this customer master B2B table here. What we'll see is that Geo is able to traverse those relationships through the catalog and provide your overall scores, your quality breakdowns by data quality rule dimension, talk about and show a little bit about the scoring for active data quality rules, as well as some governance rules here, as we see that the data set is defined, but it is not certified. Right, exactly what we saw that the MCP, that the external agent was able to read through the MCP server. So if I actually select view rules, this will go ahead and open up our scorecard, and we can view directly in the tool here what our scores are across data governance and data quality. So you may have a lot of tools out in the market where you can, do data quality scoring, right? Where you have to move data into, your vendor's environments. All of this compute is done, as Paul had mentioned, using pushdown. So this is either pushing down inside of Snowflake Databricks GCP natively, or also utilizing our Kubernetes-based agent that sits in your environment where you don't have to send data outside of your secure firewalls as well. From a quality scoring perspective here, we see the quality score is broken down by dimension. We can view score over time as well. This is captured and available again via the APIs and MCP there. We also can see from these rules, for example, the phone number format conformity. I can go right in, view my scores across multiple assets, across systems. So our data quality scoring is not only in Snowflake, but we can add the same rules, same definitions to multiple fields in different data sources, right? And if we come in and edit, we can see, we're able to utilize AI assistants to actually generate those passing expressions, generate descriptions, and view those, testing the rules with AI generated data so that we can actually see and data stewards can view pass and fail records before and during the actual process of evaluating those data quality rules. So we can see pass records and fail records, so we're not running that on the entire data sets here. Utilizing AI generated data, we can do that. All right, so I'll go back actually and we'll talk about data quality scoring here, or data governance scoring. So we'll take a look at in data governance. So in data governance scoring, we can also apply rules for the definition of, for metadata actually, right? Is an asset defined? Is are business terms linked? Has PII been tagged and ownership assigned and certified through a workflow, right? So remember that AI's decision-making policy requires 100% governance on any tables and data sets that it's going to utilize, right? This view is showing us what's missing here. We have not gone through the certification workflow here, right? So both of these scores, the quality score and the governance score, together equal transparent proof of readiness, as well as the context from the policy. Because we know that, a score doesn't really mean anything unless it's tied to something concrete, right? Like a policy, right? And again, that's quantifiable, traceable, and as we saw, consumable by agents. Now, this workflow, right, for certification, it utilizes our workflow service here. So I'll just briefly show real quick what this can look like from a, requesting certification of a data set. Our workflow builder here is extremely flexible for, setting statuses back to draft and certified, notifying owners and data stewards through email, and setting up form-based workflows here within the tool for that certification. Again, once that is then complete, now maybe our agent can actually start to utilize this data underneath and underlying. So the last thing I want to show and talk about for readiness is some guided improvement that we're able to actually utilize in the tool. So Geo can actually help us generate data quality rules and recommend data quality rules based on certain context. So I asked, recommend me quality rules for my customer master Snowflake dataset used in AI use cases, right? It prompts me to choose the one. It found some similarly named ones here. And then it's recommending me these rules for AI use cases. You'll notice it's going to put in the description, right? It's going to give us a confidence score that this rule will apply for our context that we gave it. Gives us the expression, and we can edit it in line, just like we did, like a data steward, so that we're, again, keeping human in the loop for reviewing these recommended data quality rules, right? So that's all around assessment when it comes to readiness. But we also need to fix the data as well, right? So this is something, and again, all sitting on top of our catalog foundation. We can also utilize data quality pipelines for remediation. So I just come into a pipeline real quickly just to show an example here, right? To unblock our agent, that data quality score needs to improve, and that's what we use these pipelines for. So the data integrity suite here includes that low code pipeline with push down processing. So not only for profiling and also the data quality rule assessment, this also applies to actually pushing down that remediation. So we support cleansing, standardization, utilizing low code and also AI assistant to generate JavaScript, as well as address verification with precisely global reference data. We also have enrichment via our precisely ID that gets returned once we geocode and actually, if we take a look here, for example, here, we've taken some addresses and we add longitude and latitude and our precisely ID that can be utilized to join up, our 400 plus data sets, as well as matching with 30 plus fuzzy matching algorithms, right? So again, the catalog's not sitting on your pipelines or next to your pipelines. It's what they're built on top of. The last thing I'll show, or one of the last things I'll show here from a readiness perspective is we also can interact with Geo to where we ask it, standardize my payment terms to these allowed values, and it's going to generate that JavaScript underneath and allow for previewing. So if we see the JavaScript that was generated through Geo, we preview before and after. We see some of these rules that were failing against our payment terms rule that we saw from Geo and within our agent. We see the before and after, right? We are basically setting them to standardized values. Last but not least is these pipelines can be set to run in batch, as well as they can be set to be run as a service as well for utilizing REST API endpoints so that these pipelines are also consumable by our, your external agents and our internal agent as well, right? So now that we've quantified readiness at a point in time across both data quality and governance, but trust is not something that you assess once and assume forever. Data changes, pipelines change, and risks emerge over time. So that's why the final piece is trust, which is continuously monitoring this foundation so that both people and AI agents can keep acting on it with confidence, right? So everything we've built up to this point is kind of point in time snapshots, right? Data changes, pipelines evolve, and schemas shift. In our observability module here, the suite monitors continuously volume changes, freshness delays, schema changes, as well as the underlying drift of the data underneath your critical data elements. So we get these alerts that can be set and utilizing our underlying AI to basically learn about trends and what normal is like from a volume data drift, the underlying data from a profiling perspective, the schema and freshness. We can generate those alerts. And, best practices, you want to find your most crucial and critical data elements. This is where you'd apply your observer rules, such as freshness or for data drift, right? It's going to take that learning of the profile and then be able to surface those alerts for anomalous data changes, right? And this is what keeps that trust layer current. The quality and governance scores that the agents evaluated, right? Observability ensures those scores stay accurate over time and that, if new rules need to be generated and new remediation pipelines need to be utilized. And any AI that we saw in the tool here follows our bring your own LLM framework. So all of the various AI that's embedded into that side of the tool, including Geo, utilize, or, that you can use precisely LLMs, or you can also inject your LLMs to where it interacts, through the cloud. And so like that actual AI spend is managed by the customer, right? So kind of bringing it full circle here. I'll come back to our slides here. And right at the top of the session, an AI agent answered the question, can I use this data? And it didn't guess, right? It traversed the catalog through policies, data sets, quality scores, and a governance posture and delivered a specific explainable answer. And what we've built in the last 20 minutes or so is showing how each piece of that trust layer gets built from discovery, setting with business context, ownership, classification, and building into that semantic layer. We saw traceability where we see lineage from source to consumption with trust indicators embedded. We see readiness with quality and governance scoring with those improvement workflows embedded in the tool. And last but not least, trust through observability and continuous monitoring that keeps all of this trust layer current, right? And again, like we saw in multiple facets here, every layer is accessible via API and MCP. So you build the governance framework kind of once, and then every agent and every team consumes it as a service as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back to Paul here to close us out.
All right, thanks, Trey. Just quick recap of what sets Precisely Data Catalog apart. We feel it's a simplified and unified user experience through the Data Integrity Suite, the seamless discoverability for context and assessment, and the advanced AI-driven metadata automation, and data management that includes moving the data, enriching the data, and improving the data. Okay. And lastly, when you partner with Precisely, we're much more than a vendor. Our three-pronged approach helps deliver trusted data to fuel your mission-critical AI with efficiency and analytics and initiatives offering the most comprehensive and valuable combination of data integrity software, data, and consulting capabilities. And with that, I believe it's Q&A time. Mark?
Now we actually just had a flurry of activity hit both Q&A, and there were some great questions in chat. And Paul, I saw that you answered one of my favorite lineage questions quite well. But just in case anybody wasn't watching chat, I'm going to ask it again because I think this is a great question. So, how much of lineage is derived automatically versus manual connections to be added? Was the question.
Yeah, most lineage these days is derived automatically. And let's talk about what do you mean by lineage? Because everyone kind of looks at it lineage a little bit differently. So when we think of lineage, we typically think of it as movement of data or transformation of data from source to a target. And to do that, those transformations and that movement of data is typically done by some application or tool, ETL tool, stored procedures, Airflow, and the like. I mean, there are many tools out there. And so we have out-of-the-box connectors that actually establish connectivity to those tools. We extract the information, and then we load it into the catalog. So from the lineage perspective, most of it's done automatically. Now, we also have the concept of relationships, and how do you visualize relationships? For example, who's the owner? How's an asset related to maybe a synonym or some other context? And we graphically present that. So the information that Trey showed you in the demo is a graphical representation of all of those relationships, maybe to the scores or to the rules or to other data. So hopefully that answered your question.
Awesome. We have another question in chat that I'm kind of interested about as well. Is Precisely able to collect the I believe this stands for the data catalog vocabulary 3, the standard from WC3 metadata, and export that metadata? So does that make sense?
I have not come across the DCAT3, Trey, maybe you have, but what we do, we come across different models every day with different customers. We have a very flexible ingestion model to bring in metadata. We also allow customers to customize the meta model. So, for example, if DCAT3 has additional attributes or relationships, it's very easy out of the box to kind of tweak whatever meta model. When I say meta model, I mean really the taxonomy and ontology of what you're looking at in the catalog. And so we'd love to, if you've got, would like to give it a try, just contact us. We'll set up a POC. Generally, we can turn those around very quickly. I know Trey would love to probably see the DCAT3 and show you in the application.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing too. So, like some other tools are kind of constrained to the connectors that are supported at a certain time, right? We have that ability as well to essentially configure with no code the meta model for an object type. So whether it's DCAT3 catalog and objects underneath, and bulk upload through our bulk upload service, so through CSV files, Excel, as well. So we don't necessarily, you don't have to be roadblocked by a specific connector. And that goes for also other asset types. Like if you have a business glossary already that you're maintaining in Excel, that's something that you can also upload into the system.
Awesome. I think this is a nice segue of a question asked by somebody in Q&A. What is the average time that your clients take to reach the level of maturity that you showed in your demo today?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, it really depends on where the organization is at from a maturity perspective, right? Has a data governance council been set up, right? How have the people, right, and the people in process been um, essentially addressed, documented, and are ready to be thrown into as the business contextual layer into a tool like this? Like, I mean, any customer can just go in and attach to Power BI, attach to Tableau, connect to Snowflake and harvest all those assets. But, it just depends on how much work has already been done. And now Geo, right, with the our AI assistant, right, is a relatively new release for us. That's going to drastically improve time to value and time to get to this kind of mature stage that we saw in the demonstration. So it really depends on the industry and vertical as well.
And I'd elaborate on that. Uh, and in the question, it was multifaceted. The level of maturity, data catalog is pretty quick. I mean, within minutes, we can have you up and running, have catalog sources. We can, within minutes, you can set up a rule, data quality rule or a governance rule. Once that information is cataloged, it's very quick. We have ways to import and take data, maybe metadata from your organization and load it into the catalog. So I would say the limitation is not necessarily the tool. We can do it pretty quickly in the tool. It's the maturity, as Trey said. It's the maturity of, is it a governance program or is it a compliance program? What are you trying to get to? What are your objectives and your drivers? But
Mhm.
from a technical perspective, much quicker than you would think.
Awesome. Chat must be getting very excited because questions are coming in furiously, and I'm losing track almost here. This is a wonderful segue off of this as well, and a lot of people are interested in this answer. So, if we're building the catalog by AI and Geo is consuming its own product, or the AI is consuming its own product, how do we prevent, or how does precisely prevent the cataloging AI collaborating with the data processing AI in an AI loop?
Yeah, so we're not building the catalog with AI. So
Ah,
we're most of the time we're using very deterministic rules for extracting information, loading into the catalog, or business rules, for example, which domain, which owner, with the data sensitivity. So you have a repository of information in the catalog, and then you are enriching it with AI, or you're asking questions of it from AI. Um, so you're really not getting into that governance loophole. Now, if you were creating data, transactional data with AI and populated in the catalog, yes, you would definitely have a governance loophole. So I don't think that, in the way the question's phrased, it's not really an issue. It's pretty straightforward.
all right. We have the most common question of all, which I love, is how are we handling data security?
Yes. So, okay, yes. So for users, right? Basically the users are set up into various roles and those roles are assigned security policies, right? So when it comes to where data, what metadata is actually seen, right? Or we have create, read, update, and delete permissions that can be set there. That's something that can be set up in the system. At the end of the day, when it comes to data underneath, the only data that's surfaced in the system are samples for either failed record samples or for building out data quality pipelines. Everything else is more like shuttling instructions back and forth between the design and control plane to the actual data plane there. And then those permissions as well, right? They can be accessible via the APIs as well too, via your API key, right? Whatever API key for whatever account is set up, it inherits those permissions as well. Anything else,
So
Paul, you want to add there?
Just we very extensive security. Where there was another question. So the data integrity suite is a SaaS-based application, but we do have connectors, on-premise connectors to uh, that run behind the firewall. If you choose to go that route, that will do the harvesting of metadata and relationships. And we have a very robust security model. We're constantly doing testing, security to internal and external testing, certifications. Um, we are focused on enterprise applications. We're enterprise level security and controls in place that you'd expect. We often get those questions in RFIs, and we've got the laundry list of questions from your own security or cloud security um, organizations, and happy to discuss those in detail when we get to that point.
Yeah, last thing I'll add on that, Mark, is that also like the governance and catalog portion of the data integrity suite is FedRAMP certified right now, FedRAMP mid, so that's an indicator of where we're heading from a security perspective as well.
awesome. Somebody in chat got very excited about workflow. So they're one of my favorite people. And so they were asking about the governance improvement. Is it a standard workflow provided out of the box? How can it be customized? And does it integrate with something like a Jira or ServiceNow?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, the workflows there are entirely configurable, right? To which roles, which user groups, which owners, right? And we do have an API node that can make external communications from the workflow. Anything else, Paul, you want to add there on the workflow?
No, I mean, you covered. I mean, we have integrations using workflow. It's pretty sophisticated based off the metadata, relationship, actions in the catalog, and you're able to design and build it in a user interface of a very an intuitive user interface.
Yep. And it's got the triggers can be either like I had shown in the demo, you can request certification, or that can be triggered automatically via conditions on fields and assets in the catalog. A new relationship gets added, boom, pops up an approval workflow. And then
What's
um
really interesting to me, go a little bit off tangent on the question, but the role of AI in workflow, because agentic AI is causing a rethink of how workflow is done. When you can have skilled agents do those tasks that were typically you had to build out in workflow. Now you ask, you ask Geo, you ask your own MCP servers or agents to take something and move it to Jira, and it does it all under the hood, like by magic, and it's pretty incredible. So I would just advise to do a rethink of how you think of workflow and what's possible with AI now.
That's a great point. We have time for one tiny question. Does Precisely work with a specific vertical or with all verticals?
all verticals, all verticals.
all
Yeah, we
all
have.
vertical. It's a classic. Yes, all verticals we have. We're in 96 of the Fortune 100 companies that span many different verticals. Um, we've got some that we typically have been in finance, insurance, telecom, banking, are some of the big ones. But we constantly are brought into new verticals or new markets that we haven't been before.